David Johnson was a packaging engineer at Hasbro, and he was a Hasbro insider for Project Veritas during their big expose on the children's toy manufacturer back in July of 2021. You may remember him. Despite identifying himself as a young black center-left gay man, what Johnson heard from those DEI training sessions on race and on other hot topics left him in absolute shock, and not the good kind of shock. Take a listen.
My name is David Johnson. I'm a packaging engineer for Hasbro. They are attempting to covertly push CRT, critical race theory, through branding and messaging through their products. I decided to come to Project Veritas because I opposed the indoctrination of children that they wanted to push.
Explain what we're looking at here.
This is the program developed by the Conscious Kid, which is working with Hasbro to teach children about racial bias at an early age.
Is this a mandatory all-hands training?
Yes, it was mandatory for me.
Children as young as 2 are already using race to reason about people's behaviors.
2-year-old racists is just an absurd concept.
By 3 to 6 months, babies are beginning to notice and already express preference by race. By age 3, children are already starting to apply stereotypes. They also may use racist language intentionally at this age.
I think this is where the math starts to slip a little bit.
Is this what people are talking about regarding critical race theory?
This is critical race theory in practice. They explain that the white children in particular have the particular bias against black people. It's a mainstream ideology now, and it's in a lot of our institutions. People that I've spoken to about these issues, and I'm trying to explain to them why teaching people to segregate based on race or by gender or by any other inherent characteristic is wrong. If you want your children to be looking at people based on their race, then you are opposing Dr. Martin Luther King's dream.
In the years since, Johnson has partnered with New York Times bestselling author Kent Heckenlively with the foreword written by none other than Dennis Prager to investigate the issue further with a new book just released titled The Diversity Con: The Secrets and Lies Behind the Shady DEI Industry. So author and Project Veritas whistleblower David Johnson is here with us to talk about it. David, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me, Kara.
Great. So in this book, you talk about what it was like blowing the whistle to Project Veritas. Talk to us about how that came about and what your experience was like.
It was something I never thought I would do in my life. What happened was I was working with Hasbro as an engineer, and only very briefly when they hosted this CRT meeting. And like I said in the video, the goal was to teach children at an early age to have racial biases and have a racial consciousness awakening. And they wanted to do that without the parents necessarily knowing. And that is the part that I found insidious, and the only trusted name I could think of at the time was Project Veritas.
And I'm glad that you came forward because, I mean, racist babies, that's what they're really going with at this point. And as you were writing this book, I hear that you were also going undercover at other DEI training sessions. What were you hearing when you went to these different sessions?
Everything you think. All the stereotypes that you hear about DEI sessions, that they're secretly teaching people to hate whites, to hate straight people, to hate anything that's considered normalized, is true. And they said that, I heard that from their own mouths. And then just the justification for what they consider to be just ends for their ideology. And the end result is going to be increased racial tensions between groups, the deterioration of relationships between males and females, and the grooming and abuse of children. That's where this is going.
And I know also in this book, you guys do a lot of research into where the money's coming from, who's funding this, and for what purposes. I think a lot of it, you guys were saying, comes from the Tides Foundation, which is, of course, Soros linked. But can you talk to us about some of those financial webs as well?
Sure. So the Tides Foundation, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is basically a web for laundering money in the billions of dollars. It's a large institution that is not only propped up by names like George Soros, but also you have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefellers, Google, which is owned by Alphabet, which also controls subsidiaries like YouTube.